Great British Railways is going to be the new phrase that we're all going to be talking about, GBR. It's a state-owned company that's going to replace the country's fractured rail network. I'm not quite sure how it's all going to work, so let's find out from Norman Baker, former Transport Minister, ex-Lib Dem MP. Norman, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
I've just the question has been posed to me: is Great British Railways going to be sort of apportioned the same sort of office space as Great British Energy, which appears to not have an office and not have a website and not have any kind of means of propulsion at all? Is this just a bit of window dressing? Are they getting rid of Network Rail? What are they doing?
Well, yes, they are getting rid of Network Rail, but the reality is that Great British Railways transition team has been in existence for several years now.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a general consensus across the political parties about the architecture that should apply to the railways. And it's been there for over 5 years, going back before COVID. So why we do the consultation now is beyond me, because I'm afraid, if I can be cynical, governments tend to launch consultations when you want to be seen to be doing something and they're actually doing nothing.
Exactly. That was my worry. I'm quite glad that you've kind of confirmed it for me. I mean, everybody knows that the railways are in a bit of sort of jeopardy, shall we say. We're paying people an awful lot of money to work on them. The trains don't run very successfully. They're not very reliable. A lot of people that I know have more or less given up on travelling by rail unless they've got plenty of time to get somewhere. If you're actually on a promise, if you've got an appointment, if you've got an interview, if you've got an important job that you need to be in a place to do, you're basically going to drive.
Well, look, I mean, the thing is that the Department for Transport, Heidi Alexander knows about transport, to be fair to her. She spent a lot of time in Transport for London, so she's actually quite qualified in that sense. But the point is, there's no money. Yeah. The Treasury is giving them no money to do anything. Rail fares are going up again 4.6%, way above inflation, pricing people off the railways, which is not what we want to do for all sorts of reasons. And moving chairs around isn't going to change anything in terms of how the railways actually work. Whether you have the trains run by a train company or by Great British Railways, the fares are still going up. The ticketing's not being sorted out. The rolling stock's not changing. The timetable will be what it is. Nothing much is going to change. This is a kind of trick of the light, really, the idea that it's all going to transform itself. It isn't.
Right. But you say there's no money, but there's an awful lot of money in the business of running trains, isn't there? Because the people that run the train companies seem to do rather well when it comes to dividend time and when it comes to, sort of passing around the hat. And they all make quite a lot of money. And the government does subsidise it quite a lot.
Well, of course it subsidises it, because I think you'll find that public transport in nearly every country is subsidised, because that's the way it works, because there seems to be a societal benefit.
I don't mind public money subsidising it, but I do object, if you're doing that, to private individuals and private companies then raking off profits.
Well, let me tell you something, Mike, there's a lot of attention paid to train companies, train operating companies. Actually, they are quite tightly screwed down now by management agreements from the Department for Transport. But I'll tell you who isn't screwed down: the train Roscoe's, the rolling stock companies. There's 3 large rolling stock companies who own 87% of our trains in this country. Their profits have tripled in the last 3 years. They're now creaming off almost £500 million in public money, and their profit margins are 41.6%. That's where the money is going, and the government's not touching those.
Right. And they make that money how? By selling the rolling stock to the government?
No, they lease it all to the train operating companies.
Okay.
Basically, set their own price. Yeah. And of course, what they do is they keep the rolling stock short, so the prices go up. There's also no rolling stock strategy from the government. This is a criminal omission, which means there's no link between the electrification going on, for example, and the trains which exist. Yeah. So you've got electric trains. This is happening. Electric trains are being cut up and scrapped. The Heathrow Connect trains were cut up and scrapped, although they were less than 20 years old. Meanwhile, we've got 40-year-old diesel trains trundling around with no prospect of being replaced.
So, I mean, that all could be restructured, couldn't it? Because surely, I mean, I've always said this about the NHS, and surely it should work in the same way that the train companies should. I mean, if you're the sole, purchaser of their property, if you're the sole leaseholder of what they sell, then surely you should be dictating the price and going, well, we're not paying that. You'll make no money at all.
Well, I mean, the government's made a big thing about so-called nationalisation, when in actual fact, most of the railways have been nationalised for years. Network Rail was nationalised under the coalition government, as a matter of fact, and all the bits and pieces that go around it are nationalised. The train companies themselves, although they have their names still on the trains, are basically run by the Department for Transport, which determines the conditions, the timetables, basically everything else. The thing that's not nationalised and is creaming off money are the rolling stock companies, and the government's not touching those.
Right, and that would tell you that this overhaul is well overdue. But you've not got any great confidence, by the sounds of it, that anything's going to change anytime soon. I mean, they're talking about trying to revolutionise the way that complaints are reported. They're talking about getting a passenger app which will help people to retain their ticket price. If they can't get a train, they can use it somewhere else. I mean, it's all kind of tinkering around the edges, isn't it? Because
yes, exactly. It's just
at the moment, you've got
fluff and nonsense, to be honest, Mike. Fluff and nonsense around the edges. If you're going to sort out the railways, you need to sort out the rolling stock. You need to make sure there's a rolling stock strategy. You need to sort out the fares and the ticketing system, which is grotesquely out of date and inconsistent across the country. Start doing those things and you start making a difference.
Yeah, no, the ticketing system's insane. I mean, I went to Edinburgh recently, back end of last year, and I had to buy all sorts of different split tickets. You know, I had to go via different places. There was no information about how it could be done direct. As it turned out, I could have gone a different way, but nobody told me. You know, it's like, you know, it's like entering some kind of Chinese puzzle. And you have no clue as to whether or not you're actually ever going to get to your destination. If you are, what time that's going to be.
You should not need a university degree to get the best ticket on the railways.
No, you shouldn't. And even if you've got one, you still can't work it out. But listen, Norman, good to talk to you. Glad to see that you're a similarly cynical man as I am on this one. Former Transport Minister and ex-Lib Dem MP Norman Baker there telling us that this Great British Railways stuff is stuff and nonsense, basically. There's going to be a bill pushed through by Labour before the summer, supposedly. But, you know, if any of you travel by train, you'll know what I'm talking about, that it's not a pleasant experience. It's very rarely a pleasant experience. If it is a pleasant experience, it's unusual and you actually get surprised.